So if you're thinking about going out and taking a trip, maybe one night or 2 nights or several nights out on your kayak, I wanted to go over just some essential things that you might want to think about. Maybe you've done a couple of trips, maybe you're new to it. So I hope this video helps you. Some key things to keep in mind. 1 is how you're going to sleep. 2, how you're going to filter water, or are you taking water with you? Another is food, and then some just general items. So to start with, let's talk about sleeping. So are you going to do hammock camping, or are you going to do tent camping? Certainly hammock camping has its serious benefits when you're going out on your kayak because it takes up very little space. So these can even fit down inside your kayak. Some people will actually take a rope, tie the rope onto it, then maybe take their sleeping bag, tie the rope onto that, and they'll stuff several items down inside their kayak, and then they're able to pull them out with the rope, and that will save space on top of the kayak. Compared to, if you're going to take a tent, this is a pretty small tent comparatively, so the hammock compared to this size-wise obviously has a big benefit, but it's really personal preference. So if you're going to take a tent, you just want to figure out how you're going to pack that. You need to take it out of the original packaging, maybe put the tent part inside of a dry bag, which you're going to need for, you want to put your sleeping bag, maybe your sleeping pad or your hammock. You want to put those things in a dry bag, so that way in case, they get wet, you're not sleeping in a wet sleeping bag. But you might need to pack that tent differently than you maybe normally would. So for me personally, I'm a tent camper, so I take a sleeping pad and I take a sleeping bag. These are pretty small, but it makes it for a pretty comfortable trip. So this sleeping bag packs on pretty small. It's down, and it is rated for 32 degrees, so it will certainly keep you warm if you need it to. It's thin, so there's not a lot of padding, so it certainly doesn't add any comfort really, but that's what the sleeping pad's for. I also like to take a pillow. This is one I use pretty often. There's different kinds. This one's filled with a foam, so you can compress it down. There's ones that you can inflate, so they don't take up hardly any space at all. But this one, you actually can just roll it down, and then you have this little canvas piece that flips over, and then you can get it to go down inside of itself, and it doesn't take up very much space at all. It's got a little drawstring on it. So that way, again, it's a space saver, but will help keep you comfortable at the same time. Water filtration. So I think it's really about what you're comfortable with and what your water source is. So all filters filter down to a certain micron level. So some of them are going to filter out protozoa, some are going to filter out bacteria, some are going to do both. Viruses are very small, so very few, if any, actually filter out a virus, but I have these two. This is a pump one, and then this one you manually fill. Then you put this back on, and then you squeeze it down, and you can squeeze it into your quick boil container or into a water bottle, either way. This one, the pump one, again, you pump it, you can do it into this. It actually will screw onto the top of one of these bottles. Again, it's really about what you're comfortable with. I personally boil all of my water just to be really safe. A little trick though, nobody wants to drink warm water, so if you're in an area where the water is cool, you can actually, once you boil it and you put it in your container, just put your container down in the water, maybe the river or the lake or whatever it is you're nearby. You can put it down in there and it will actually cool it down pretty quick. Something else to talk about since we're talking about water is what are you going to do for food? So there's these kind of pre-packaged items. Dehydrated food. Once you get your water, you're going to heat it up, you're going to put it in there, let it sit for 10 or 15 minutes. They're actually pretty good, and they're actually really convenient. So I think for kayak camping, where it's harder to take something like a cooler with you, where maybe you've prepared some of your own stuff, it makes for a really easy, convenient option. If you're really set on taking something more that you've prepared, maybe it's perishable foods, you might be a big breakfast person, so you want to take bacon and sausage and eggs and those kind of things. and that's fine. You can definitely do it on a kayak. It's just you have to think about it a little different. So you either need to get a cooler that fits specifically into one of the storage areas of your kayak, or you need to get something that's more of a soft-sided cooler that can still retain quite a bit of that coldness so that your stuff doesn't go bad over the few days that you're out. Something else to think about is, you know, if you're doing these kind of pre-packaged meals and you're using one of these, I mean, it's pretty easy. There's just not really much to do, but if you're gonna, you know, cook on a wood fire and those kind of things, maybe you take a small cast iron skillet or something with you. You know, even these companies that make these quick boil things, a lot of them have, you know, the little skillets and stuff that go with them, and that's great. You just want to think about the utensils you're going to take. For me, sort of, if you can use things for multiple purposes, that's really important because, again, you're on a kayak and there's just not a lot of space. So I always use metal utensils. You know, if you use plastic and you're cooking in a skillet, you're going to melt your stuff. These are really durable, so cleaning them, it's easy. They don't weigh much. These are actually aluminum. I do hiking too, so they're great to take hiking because they don't weigh hardly anything. But just thinking about the utensils you're going to take as well. Lighting. So you can get these little flashlights anywhere, right? And they're great for inside the tent. However, when you're actually out on the kayak and if you're doing camping at night, you're really going to want something that puts off more light. So you want to be able to see really far in front of you. You know, depending on where you're camping, in the camp area, you might want to be able to see around you. You want something, I think, minimum that's about 5,000 lumens. You know, 10,000 lumens and above is better. So looking for a headlamp that will give you that is really important. Obviously, if you're paddling at night, you're not going to be able to hold a flashlight in your hand, so a headlamp is really beneficial. But again, something that's really 10,000 lumens and above is what you're going to want. Power for your phone, if you're going to take your phone with you, or if you have other electronic devices that you need to charge, you know, using something that is a solar powered unit is great. You know, you can just lay it out while you're kayaking, it'll charge during the day, and then you can charge up your item at night. There's also the battery packs. You can certainly take those with you as well and charge off of that, but once you use it, it's done. So if you're going to be out for several days and you're going to need to recharge multiple times, a solar unit is great. You should always make sure you're safe and take a first aid kit with you. For me, you know, these come with most of the essentials. There's lots of different variations. You can get really small ones, you can get ones that are bigger that have lots of stuff in them. I think something that just has basic gauze, those kind of things, those are important. You know, it has Band-Aids in it. It's got a few medicines and things like that in it. Something that I always put in myself is some antacids. It's really terrible to be out there with some heartburn and you can't do anything about it. These are actually really small towels. They pack down so small, so it's great for kayak camping. So it's always nice to just keep one of those in there, and any other items you might want to keep. Bug spray. So depending on where you are, there might be lots of bugs, maybe not. But if there are, you don't want to take one of those huge containers, right? We're thinking about saving as much space as possible. So there's lots of options out there where you can get a really small container and maybe take one or two of these out with you. Backup plan, always good to have some waterproof matches. That way, if maybe you took a lighter and that's how you're going to start your fire or whatever, you just at least have a backup plan. So you fire something that you always want to have if you're able to. And I think that's it. So thank you for watching this video. You can make comments below and I'll respond back to you. I hope you enjoyed the video.